Good for you.
Well, first of all, to just add a little bit to what was just said about the well-being of cyclists and the self-worth of a cyclist being somehow based on whether or not they win a stage in the Tour de France or any bicycle race for that matter. I think, first of all, I agree with what he said, and I don't think that even most professional cyclists typically make a judgment about their own self-worth based on any given performance. But certainly, to try to tie that in with what's been said earlier about the way that cyclists are expected to behave, and when they don't behave a certain way, or accused of breaking the rules, their identity is taken away, and it's not a specific result that they've gotten or a specific goal that they've achieved. It's their entire identity becomes something different, and they're expected to try to explain why it was that they made the decisions they made, and that's what complicates things for the rest of their life, not so much whether or not they achieved the goal that they set out to achieve in the first place. On the other hand, all right, clarify exactly what your question was in the first place, because I had a point, but I think I've forgotten what it was.
So, what would you tell an 18 or 19-year-old boy who's about to enter the elite ranks in sport?
I guess what I was trying to say by starting out with what I said about the previous points is that there's no reason not to encourage an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old or a 50-year-old or an 80-year-old to get into riding their bicycle. And the decisions that you have to make with regards to bicycle racing and trying to win bicycle races are not entirely different from decisions that you have to make about ethical dilemmas in anything else in life. And so I think it's a dire point of view to say that because there's these choices that are put in front of you, that you should just avoid riding a bicycle altogether. It comes down to what exactly it is that you're trying to accomplish by entering a bicycle race in the first place. And I guess if all of your self-worth is based on whether or not you succeed or whether or not you accomplish a goal in a bicycle race, then there probably should be some more thought put into why exactly you got into cycling in the first place. So I think that it would be unfortunate if, because of the subject of doping in cycling and unethical behavior in cycling is so pervasive right now, that people were discouraged from becoming bicycle enthusiasts, because those decisions that you have to make are not entirely unlike decisions you make every day with regards to other endeavors in life.
I certainly endorse what Floyd said there. But I would say, the first thing I'd say, it's a great sport. Go and have some fun, enjoy it. And the joy of cycling, which everyone in this room has experienced. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that if your friends start to demonstrate some serious talent, is that tell them, be prepared for when the door of your sport closes. So ensure that they have a number of other dimensions to their life, and that would mean having friendship groups outside the sport. It would mean meaningfully achieving in other areas of their life. And it would also mean that one of the problems, if any of you saw the Ben Cousins documentary, they interviewed his psychiatrist, and they asked his opinion of why Ben was in the Ben had experienced the problems he had. He said, very simple. He said, being a human being is giving and taking. When you're just taking and your sole purpose is the glorification of your own ego, you are destined for a big black hole. So I think one of the things that we do with our riders is that they all have mentors and they all are compelled to do community work. And just that balance in giving and doing things for others. And yeah, that's what I'd tell him. But I'm very optimistic. I'm not, in terms of the drug story, I would tell him the drug story, cycling is the whipping boy in the world of sport. If you actually do an analysis of all the other sports, you will find the data or the statistics quite extraordinary. I met a friend of Martin's in the USA, Inigo San Milan, and he said if you actually look at it statistically, the prevalence of doping in cycling is probably nearly the lowest of any sport. It just so happens that the average cyclist gets tested, 80 or 100 times a year. So I would tell him to be very optimistic, not have a bleak view.
Yeah, I would sort of say that we have talked about a few problems, but there's no need for depression. This is not the bleak house. We've got to talk about these things to sort of think about where we can go. We can't go forward without thinking about the past. And I think this sort of holistic, if I can call it that, for want of a catchphrase, approach of Michael's is very important in dealing with that in the future. What I think we should try, and unless there's somebody who wants to comment on that aspect particularly, I think we should sort of focus a bit on some of these problems, these current problems that we've been talking about a bit. What are the panel's views on this idea, this call for an independent organisation to run the testing, but also an independent organisation, independent of the UCI anyway, a new organisation to run professional cycling? Has anyone got any views on that? Andy?
First of all, I want to congratulate Michael on your team, because I think you it should be a benchmark to many teams out there, what you do. I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of your guys in Ireland in May, and I just think it's a great system you guys have there. I think it should serve as the same benchmark to other teams, even Pro Tour teams, as to how riders can come out of the sport at the other end in good condition and prepared for the future as such. Because it's difficult for a lot of riders who leave the sport in the spotlight for a lot of their careers. So, great. Talking about the organisation, it's something I spoke to with Greg LeMond at length in the summer. That there definitely needs to be some sort of organisation, and whether Bike Pure fit in there, an organisation where riders can go to for advice, whether that be riders who have doped, who've come out of the system. And if we can learn anything out of the cases of Pantani and Vandenbroek, that I think we should look at those, and if we can sort of help any riders come out of the sport in good shape, in good condition, both mentally and physically. And I think that should be pushed more even by the UCI. Like I say, where Bike Pure fit into that scenario, I'm not sure, but it's something that I discussed a lot with Greg, and I think we can.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of the sentiment we've got from these papers is that given the way that things have been handled in recent times, is the UCI the body to be running the sport at the moment?
Yeah. I'm going to just say that it's quite ironic that we're here talking about the future of the sport, and the governing body aren't even here to take part, which I think is ridiculous.
Yes, it's a great disappointment, but anyway.